Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us have a look at this question that solves the system of linear equations. For us to solve the system of these linear equations, we have to apply the Gauss elimination method. Now, the first step that we have to take in Gauss elimination method is to swap the equations. We can either swap equation 1 with this is equation 1, and this is equation 2, and this is equation 3. So we can either swap this equation with this equation. And swapping means interchanging the position of the equations. Swapping means interchanging the position of the equations. That means if this equation is in the first row, we can change it to go to the third row. So, and the one which is in the third row can also change its position from being in the third row to the first row. Now, let us proceed this way, that we swap equation 1, this equation 1, with equation 3. So the first step is swapping equation 1 with equation 3. So this one means swapping, that is interchanging the positions of the equations. Now, whereby we shall have our first equation as 3x1 minus 7x2 plus 4x3 equals to 10. Then our second equation remains the way it is. That is negative x1 minus 2x2 plus 3x3 equals to 1. Now, and our third equation now, since we have to interchange the position of equation 1 with equation 3, then that means our third equation will be the first equation. That is x1 plus x2 plus 2x3 equals to 8. That now becomes our row 3 because we have swapped R1 with R3. R1 denotes row 1 and R3 denotes row 3. Now, this means swapping, that is interchanging the positions. Instead of writing the first row, the first equation in the first row, I write the third equation in the first row. So instead of writing the first equation in the first row, I write it in the third row. That is the meaning of swapping. Now, let us proceed this way. The second step that we take in Gauss elimination method is rescaling. And rescaling can only be done if we have fractions. If we have fractions, for example, the coefficient of x1 in the first row is 3. And the coefficient of x2 in the first row is negative 7. And the coefficient of x3 is also 4. Now, when we go to the second row, the coefficient is, we have negative 1 here, we have negative 2, we have positive 3. Here we have 1, we have 1, we have 2. That means we don't have a fraction, and therefore we skip the second step, that is rescaling, and we go to the third step, which is reducing the rows. So we need to reduce the rows. We need to ensure that we eliminate this x1 here, that is the x1 in the third equation. Then we also move to eliminate this x1 in the second equation. Then we come to the third row, whereby we eliminate x2. And we remain with x3 here. Then we also remain with x2 in the second equation, that is x2 and x3. Then in the first equation, we remain with x1, x2, x3 in that order. Now, let us do this way. That is the first step that we shall take, is that we shall say that we have R2, that is R2, this is the second row. Then we add with R3, and we are obtaining our new R3. we are obtaining our new row 3. Now, that means we shall have the first row as 3x1 because it has not changed. This is the row that I'm writing. That is 3x1 minus 7x2. Then plus 4x3 equals to 10. Then our second row has not changed. We have negative x1 minus 2x2. Then plus 3x3 equals to 1. Now, our third row now, which is the one that is new, is that we obtain by adding row 2 with row 3 to obtain our new R3. So we have negative x1 plus x1, we shall get 0. Then we have negative 2x2 plus x2, we shall get negative x2. Then we have 3x3 plus 2x3. That means we shall have positive 5x3 equals to 1 plus 9. Not 1 plus 9, but 1 plus 8 is 9. Now, after eliminating x1 in the third row, then let us move to the second row and eliminate x1 also. This is what we shall do to eliminate x1 in the third row. We shall have R1, which is row 1, then plus 3 row 2. This is the first row, R1 plus 3R2. That is 3 times the second row, so that we can obtain our new R2. That is our new row 2. That means our row 1 and row 3 remains the way they are. That is 3x1 minus 7x2 plus 4x3 equals to 10. Now, after that, I will write our new row 2 here. I will write it here. So let me leave this space so that I can write our row 2. Let me write row 3, that is negative x2 plus 5x3 equals to 9. It has not changed. Now, what has changed or what will change is our second row, which means we will obtain by adding row 1 with 3 row 2. That is R1, which is 3x1. Let me write it here. That we have 3x1, which is the first row, and it is x1 that we are considering. Then plus this plus 3r2, that is 3r2, which is negative x1, negative x1. So that means we shall have 3x1 plus 3 times negative x1, it will be negative 3x1. Therefore, we shall have 3x1 minus 3x1, and we shall obtain 0. Now, also let us go to x2, whereby we shall have row 1, which is negative 7x2 plus 3r2. 3, what is our r2? It is negative 2x2, negative 2x2. We shall have negative, we shall have this is what we shall have, that we have negative 7x2 plus 3 times negative 2x2. 3 times negative 3 times negative 2x2 is negative 6x2. Therefore, we shall have negative 7x2 minus 6x2. Now, negative 7x2 minus 6x2, we shall have it as 13, which is negative 13x2. That is negative 13x2. So that means we shall have negative 13x2. Now, let us go to x3. So we have R1, which is 4x3. Let me write it here. that is 4x3, that is row 1. Then plus row 2 is obtained by, not row 2, but it is plus 3 row 2 plus 3. What is row 2? Row 2 is just 3x3. So I will write 3x3. So that means we shall have 4x3, that is 4x3 plus 3 times 3x3, it will be 9x3, and 4x3 plus 3 plus 9x3, that means we shall obtain 13x3. Therefore, we have here plus 13x3 equals to row 1, which is 10, plus 3 row 2, that is 10 plus 3 times 1, which is 3. 10 plus 3, it is 13. Now, what we shall do, another step that we will take to eliminate x2 in our third row is that we shall have row 2 plus, not plus, but minus 13 row 3, we shall obtain our new row 3. We need to obtain our new row 3. So that means our R1 will remain the same way it is, that is 3x2 minus 7x2, not x2, this is 3x1. This is 3x1, this is 3x1, this is x1. So 3x1, then minus 7x2 plus 4x3 equals to 10. Now we have our second row. We are not changing anything in our second row. It will remain the same way it is. That is negative 13x2, then plus 13x3 equals to 13. Now what we shall do, we need to obtain our new row 3 by having R2 minus 13R3. That is R2, this is our R2. This is what we are considering as our R2. Then this is our R3 that we are also considering, so that we obtain our new row 3. So we shall have negative, let me write it here, negative 13x2, which is our R2, then plus, not plus, but it is minus 13, our R3, 13R3, which is R3 is negative x2. Our R3 is negative x2. So I have R2, which is negative 13x2. Then we have R3, which is negative x2. So this is what I've written. Then what do we obtain? We have negative 13x2 minus, we have negative 13. Negative times a negative becomes positive. So negative 13 times negative x2 will be positive 13x2. That means we will have this as 0. So this one, x2 will be eliminated. Now let us consider also R3. That means R2, which is 13x3, we shall have 13x3, then minus 13, this 13, R3. Our R3 is 5x3. That means we shall have 13x2 minus 13 times 5 is 65. Then we have x3. That means 13x2 minus 65x3 is negative 52x3. So we shall have negative 52x3 equals to, we have R2, which is 13, minus 13 times 9. So I will have let me calculate it using a calculator. That is 13, which is our R2. This is 13. Then we have minus 13, then times 9. Minus 13 R3, which is 9. That is times 9. What do we obtain? That is negative 104. That is negative 104. Now, at this point, since we have the first row which has x1, x2, and x3, and the second row has x2 and x3, and the third row has x3 only, that means it is now easier to get the value of x1 and x2 and x3, because we shall just do this way. That is, from row 3, we have negative 52x3 equals to negative 104. So if I divide by negative 52 on both sides, then I will obtain my x3 as 2. Now, since I have obtained my x3 as 2, let us go to the second equation. The second equation is negative 13x2 plus 13x3, but my x3 is 2, equals to 13, which is here. So that means I will have negative 13x2 plus 26 equals to 13. Now that means I will have negative 13x2 equals to, if I take 26 to the other side, I will have 13 minus 26. And therefore, I will obtain 13x2 equals to negative 13, because 13 minus 26 is negative 13. So over 13 over 13. That means my x2 equals to negative 1. Now, since I have my x2, I have my x3, let us obtain x1 from equation 1, or from row 1. So we have 3x1 in row 1 minus 7x2. But what is x2? It is negative 1. Then plus 4x3. What is x3? x3 we have obtained as 2. Then equals to this 10. So we shall have 3x1. Then negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7. Then plus 8. 4 times 2 is 8 equals to 10. Now 7 plus 8 is 15. 7 plus 8 is 15. 7 plus 8 is 15. Now that means we have initially we had negative 13x2. I have forgotten to write here a negative. Then we have a negative here because we divide by both negative 13 on both sides, and that means we shall have our x2 as negative, not even negative but positive 1. So since we have our x2 as positive 1, that means we have here positive 1, and that means we have this one as not positive but as negative. So we have 3x1 equals to, we have negative 7 plus 8. Negative 7 plus 8 is positive 1. So if I take that positive 1 to the other side, it will be a negative 1. So 10 minus 1 is 9. So therefore we have our x1 equals to 3. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you can solve a system of linear equations using the Gauss elimination method. Ladies and gentlemen, how I wish that you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, you could like, you could share and comment. Thank you.